in the few minutes available, I'd like to sketch a few trends, nothing that you might not have heard of before, but I hope that the overall horizon scanning may be fruitful in terms of putting together a few bits. Now, this is where we come from in terms of AI and what we've been personally, at least annoyed by for years. This article, as you can tell, is years old, it's 2014. And since then, for the past 5 or 6 years, we've been hearing about artificial intelligence as the biggest existential threat. There's a quote from Elon Musk. Now, the beauty of scholars is that we don't forget. When you say something silly, we will remember it. And unfortunately, we will remember it for the rest of your life. That's what archives are for. And so I'm afraid Mr. Musk will go down in history for having said something absolutely ludicrous like that. It was ludicrous years ago. It is now embarrassingly ludicrous, not least because we know exactly what are the threats that are surrounding us. Biology being way more powerful than anything else, and global warming and so forth. Now, the classic philosopher been saying this for years. No one wanted to listen. Now it seems to be a bit more obvious. Things have not gone much better though. This is again 2019. Fast forward closer to us, when Sainsbury was trying to do something till-free. Well, just wait a few months, and that's what happened. Same picture, different story. Didn't quite work. I think we will hear much more from someone who knows much more about this in the next talk. But public attitude counts immensely. You ignore it at your own peril. Here, however, the true challenge is the erosion of our autonomy. And what I'm talking about is 24/7, for example, recommending systems, constantly suggesting to do something instead of something else, that option rather than another, every day, every week, every month, every year, for the next 20 years. What happens to my autonomy? Did I really want to have their power trousers, their holiday, their job? Did I choose? Well, we need to be more careful. This will not catch the headlines of newspapers because it doesn't happen one day to the next. It's not catastrophic in the Greek sense of the word, sudden change, but it is the boiling of humanity into increasingly hot water. AI is not destroying jobs, it's polarizing jobs, it's making some jobs, or rather some tasks, obsolete, generating many others that we don't even imagine. There's a lot of DIY. I mean, basically a lot of things that we used to have people doing are back on new customer. We need to remember this next time I'm going to scan now the beans at the supermarket. There is no AI there. It's just me now doing it instead of either another human being or a machine. Now that is certainly the future. But these kind of scenarios where anyone and his uncle has decided that no, those tens of millions of jobs are going to disappear in the following X number of years. Let me just remind you one point. Imagine you are in 1920, 100 years ago, and someone to ask you, could you please predict the future in about 20 years, 1940, or let's say, no, in 30 years, 1950. Any prediction would have been just so completely wrong. This is the kind of sort of narrative that we are exposed to. People talking, and always, no, people including in this room, as it were, invited to say, oh, what's the world is going to be like in 30 years? You must be joking. Anyone serious about that doesn't know what he's talking about. So there are trends, of course. I mean, we have mistakes. Work is not a cake. It's not that if there's not something for you, there's less for me. Just remember when it comes to Saturday and Sunday and the chores at home. And there is no real, as it were, threshold. The threshold is given by what is economically viable. And so some of the things that were not viable in the past are becoming viable also thanks to the technology. Now, this represents a massive, extraordinary change, but not the trivial, obvious, oh, jobs are disappearing, what are we going to do in the future? This data, for example, come from a rather recent analysis by the American Tracking Association report. You can tell how many jobs are going to be missed. The narrative there was that, of course, driverless cars are coming. Who needs truck drivers? Seriously? Because a truck driver just drives from A to B. It doesn't check the content of the truck.